Hey guys, how the hell is it going? Alright, for starters, I need to apologize for how long it's taken me to record a video. I know it's been months, I think. Maybe 3 months or so. Just had a million things going on that have prevented me from devoting the time to getting some more videos recorded. And honestly, the bugs have resurfaced. I've been playing on and off, and I had a series of games maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, including what was literally the best game I think I have ever played online, ever. It was totally epic, amazing game where I was so far behind at the beginning. My opponent had a ridiculous board state out. I was playing Nin, and I managed to make a series of maybe 3 or 4 very, very close judgment calls in a row across 3 or 4 turns involving whether to devote mana to untapping a mana vault, to avoid taking 2 points of damage over 2 turns off of it, and a few other key plays, and I wound up winning the game at exactly 2 life. Just a totally insane, sick comeback, and couldn't wait to go and record a video for you guys to enjoy in the aftermath of that. And I load it up, and I get 5 turns in, and crash. The usual bugs resurfaced again, and they've been plaguing me on and off whenever I've tried to do replays of games, to the point where I've really kind of lost confidence in the interface again. Whatever change they made that seemed to have made it appear to be fixed clearly was lost. Although some games do come through, and I do have a series that I do want to record. This is the first of them, and I think I've got 3 or 4 other ones that are not quite as good as this one, and certainly don't compare at all to that unbelievably amazing game from before. That said, let's get started here. I am up against Static Tooth, and Static Tooth is using Breya, Etherium Shaper, one of the new generals from that new 4-color commander set. And I remember being really excited about the prospect of them being... that is horrible artwork. I just realized how bad the artwork is on that thing. But I remember being really excited about the prospect of them printing 4-color commanders, given how much design space there is and how powerful they could be. And so far I've been pretty underwhelmed by how good those generals are. You really need quite an extreme justification to branch off into 4 and 5 colors, seeing as how the generals just don't have the same elegant power that the generals that have 2 or 3 mana in their casting cost, or convert different colors of mana in their casting cost are. So if you're going to branch out into 4 colors and deal with the clunky mana base that comes with that, you better have a reason for doing it. And so far I haven't really seen any reason behind playing with any of the new 4-color commanders, at least from the perspective of being spiky in 1v1. I mean, obviously they have a lot more application for multiplayer, and that's clearly what they were designed for, but there's nothing in this set on the power level of Derevi or Aloro, and a few other things, and certainly nothing to change my current lineup of generals. So this guy, artifact based, and has 3 abilities, but none of those abilities are particularly useful. I think that's one of the problems with it. Like, none of those things are very exciting. I mean, I guess the ability to remove creatures from the board in multiplayer is pretty handy. Gaining life is all but useless, and dealing 3 damage to players in a 40 health format, pretty useless too. But anyway, I had to mulligan the first hand, as it had, I think, no lands in it, and I mulligan into this super clunky draw going second. However, I do have Brainstorm, I do have a fetch land for the Volcanic Island, and most importantly, I have Vandal Blast, which at least can blunt my opponent's fast start if he gets one, and considering the fact that he's playing an artifact-based deck, I could get some good mileage with this, especially if I see some more land on top of my deck and I can just set up a Vandal Blast to blow him out a few turns into the game. If I can get 2 more sources of mana, the Trinket Mage gets the Mana Crypt, and then I've got 5 for Vandal Blast. So I decided to keep this, especially considering the Scry. This is really an example of a hand that is a lot stronger because you have the ability to scry 1, and he does not. Let's see. Okay, so he mulliganed to 6 as well, and then he keeps. And I saw a Phyrexian Metamorph on top, which of course is useless, so I threw that to the bottom, just hoping to get a land to go. Oh, and he had me play first, which is strange. That's fine. Inventor's Fair. This is a card my friend Nate, you may have watched a bunch of his videos, Nate Prodzik. He's a big fan of and has advocated for using it in Aloro, and has told me that I should probably put it in Nin. And I think it is pretty good. I think I will definitely use this card in multiplayer. where it's not so important to hit so many blue sources early. I'm really reluctant to put colorless mana into the deck because the deck is so blue hungry. And you don't just want 2 blue on turn 2, you kind of want 4 blue on turn 4 consistently. And anything that mucks with that, I'm really reluctant to change. That said, I do play an Academy Ruins when I play multiplayer, but I'm still on the fence about Inventor's Fair. The ability to go search an artifact is pretty amazing, though, especially when you are running Winter Orb for multiplayer and obviously getting Veldic and Shackles at any time, though it is at the cost of losing one of your mana sources. And I guess the life gain can be relevant, too. So, Soul Ring. Yep. That's why he went second, to increase his odds of getting that. Mana Vault. Alright, now that's starting to look scary. And I was thinking, man, if this thing is another mana producer, I am in big trouble. Like, really big trouble. And then he just plays Rings of Brighthearth, clearly tapping out the Mana Vault, given the fact that he's counting on his Soul Ring to be able to untap it in a turn, which pretty much telegraphs that he's got at least one more land in hand, too. But because he invested in something that doesn't immediately impact the board, that's good for me, because the Vault is all but wasted. I'm going to fetch right now. I was thinking, actually, that I wouldn't fetch right away, and reason being that I would wait until my next turn to see if obviously I don't want to thin the deck of lands, but also if I don't get a land, I can Brainstorm main step. If I get a fetch land, it'll allow me to throw away these big clunky spells like the Karn and the Gilded Lotus and immediately reshuffle, whereas if I Brainstorm at the end of the turn, then I'm forced to draw one of these, which would certainly be the Lotus, and that's not ideal. However, now that he's played a card that I have to Vandal Blast, I'm going to just Brainstorm at the end of the turn anyway, since I don't have the option of doing that on my main step. Because if I don't draw land and I cast Brainstorm main step and don't see another land, then I can't Vandal Blast, and that's super bad. So, just going to go get Volcanic Island. Brainstorm. Come on, lands. Holy shit, that's bad. Alright. Well, throw back the 2 5s. I guess no, not the 2 5s, but the 7 and the 5. God damn. No land for the next 2 draw steps, but at least I can slow him down quite a bit. So he's reduced to just this. I know for sure he's got another land in his hand, because otherwise I don't think he would have cast Rings of Brighthearth. But he may not have a second one after that, and we could be in a stalemate until I can draw land and cast the Feller Stone. Plus the ice against Mana Vault's pretty nice too, if he does invest a turn in it. Sure enough, there's the land, Godless Shrine. Just comes into play tapped. Alright. Well, we knew we were going to draw that. Alright, so here I'm hoping that he does not have a third land. And not only does he have a third land, he has Commander's Sphere. So now he's got 4 to my 1. Really, really looking ugly here. I need to draw land right now or this game is just going to end. No matter what the hell the rest of his deck does. I mean, he's just going to be able to play his guy in a turn or 2. Plus he's got like Rings of Brighthearth combined with Ghost Quarter, so he can actually destroy 2 land with it, potentially, and I only get to fetch 1. Alright. Fortunately, there's an island. I'm just going to play the Feller Stone here. I gave a little bit of thought to waiting a turn to see if he would untap the Mana Vault during his untap step, and I could ice it and pretty much time walk him and draw a card. But I figure that that's a bit of a gamble. I don't know if he has another land in his hand, and if he does, then he's not going to even mess around with the Mana Vault. He's just going to play his General, and I am going to be sitting there with the ice in my hand looking foolish. So rather than doing that, I'm just going to assure that I can cast the Trinket Mage on the following turn and get the Mana Crypt and get into Gilded Lotus range to get back into this. So I'm just going to play that. And let's see here. So if he untaps, it almost certainly means he doesn't have another land in hand. And sure enough, he untaps the Vault. And proceeds to top deck Marsh Flats, most likely. So I'm sure he would have not sacked that, because he would have gone and fetched a way to cast his General otherwise. Alright. Come on, land. Bauble. Alright. Well, that's not the end of the world. Alright, so right now I'm actually going to cast the ice. I really, really want to draw land here. And probably just to play Nin the Pain Artist. If I do, in fact, draw a land off of it. And I do have a backup plan of just playing the Wayfarer's Bauble. But at least I can ice the Mana Vault here to hold off some potentially big turn and make it so he just plays his General. Now, of course, he's got Rings of Brighthearth in play, and its activation is 2, so he could actually double up on Marsh Flats in response, but I figure I can't really stop that anyway, and I really don't want him to have upwards of 7 or 8 mana next turn, because really bad things could happen. So I'm just going to ice it now and hope he doesn't see it. And sure enough, he lets it tap, and I draw Metamorph. I thought I put you on the bottom, you damn thing. Alright, put out the bauble. End step. He sacks it, and as soon as he sees the trigger for that, I'm sure he realizes what he could have done. Could have gotten 2 land, but 1 is still good. He gets a plateau. Super ugly picture plateau. Alright, no one tapping the vault this time. I'm certainly going to be facing the general, Breya. Alright. Gets 6 power and creatures for 4 mana and the ability to start sacking artifacts to deal even more. And that it shuts down Nin as well, which is a pain in the ass, although I have better things to do right now than mess around with Nin. Alright, mana drain. Well, it's excellent to draw it. Unfortunately, I'm just too far behind to sit back and gamble that he's going to feed something into the mana drain. I just have to worry about getting more mana into play. So Trinket Mage is going to come down. I'm going to get the obligatory Mana Crypt. And that allows me to sack away First Bauble and do that right now. So I'm just going to do that. So I've gone from 3 mana to 6 in 1 turn. Kind of keeping pace here. And I've got a really, really strong hand if I can just get 1 more turn here to untap without super bad things happening. At this point, I'm very concerned about him doing the Ghost Quarter trick. Like double Ghost Quartering me to kill 2 land. At least I do a red from the Flowerstone. He draws another land, most certainly. Alright, Thran Dynamo. Alright, well, he's just got 1,000,000 mana. Nothing really to do with it. Does not attack with flyers. Strange. And done. Alright, sweet. He only has 1 blue mana untapped, so I'm not really particularly concerned about counter magic here. So I've got the Metamorph, and I gave some thought to just copying the Thran Dynamo, and then using the Dynamo plus 2 land to cast Gilded Lotus. However, I'd much rather have 2 Gilded Lotus in play than a Dynamo and a Lotus, and I don't really think I don't give him any credit for having a counterspell here. Plus, my mana winds up being pretty much the same anyway, so I'm going to just hardcast the Gilded Lotus and just hope he doesn't have something random like Negate or Condescend or something. And it works, which is amazing. Alright, so I'm going to certainly go and make a second Gilded Lotus. Alright, getting more mana out now, way ahead of him, even though he just played Thran Dynamo. I've got, this is 12 to, well, I'm not counting his vault. Looks like 12 to 10. And I'm certain I have way more powerful stuff in my hand. Alright, so he untaps his vault, because he needs even more mana next turn. And he plays Etherium Sculptor, tapping, or removing the last card in his hand from, or putting it into play. He's going to sack the rings, which I totally agree with, and copy the effect to draw 2. Bash me for 4, ignoring the ability of his Thopters to fly again. Alright, so on this turn, I've got to consider what to do. I thought about this turn for quite a while. I have a bunch of choices. Obviously, I want to get Future Sight down as quickly as possible, given that I only have 1 counter, but I do have the Snapcaster Mage to potentially double up the mana drain. I do want to get Karn out, because when his hand size is so small, down to just 2 cards, he's really, really vulnerable to Karn Liberated taking out key things. And but ultimately I decided that I don't want a ton of pressure in play. The rings plus this guy and a steady clock, plus he may figure out that the Thopters can attack. He can start sacking a lot of artifacts and dealing 6 extra damage to me, and I could run out of health really quickly, which would mean that the Mana Crypt would become a really big liability. And I might be winning on the board, but my health might start to matter a lot. And I don't want to ever be in a situation where my life total is constraining my play. So I'm going to I decided that the best course of action right now is to cheaply take the Etherium Sculptor, or not the Etherium Sculptor, the Etherium Shaper off the board with this Vandal Blast, which unfortunately I cannot overload, because you cannot flashback and overload, because it's 2 different alternate costs at the same time. But that's adequate enough just to blow that guy up, even if it means he gets to sack it. So I'm going to tap for blue. And this is entirely just a tempo play. I'm just doing this to relieve some of the pressure on the board for a bit, even though it's not obviously the best deal, because he can trivially recast it and get more Thopters. But it also allows me to deploy Karn with the 2 blue mana untapped. So I'm going to eat a card out of his hand, and I get Crumbling Necropolis, I think. Yeah, just a land. Not too useful. But we're just chilling. Alright, so he sacks the Inventor's Fair, copies it. Another cool effect of the Rings of Brighthearth. And he gets Nim Deathmantle. Strange. And Combustible Gearhulk. Yikes. Alright. He happens to have exactly 6 to cast that big guy with, too. And normally I wouldn't care too much about it, given that I can just Karn it away. Problem is that it can deal a boatload of damage. If I don't let him draw 3, he puts... I guess it mills me for 3. And it does converted damage. And if he got lucky and hit some big stuff, then I could potentially lose Karn, which would be disastrous, because then I couldn't get rid of the Combustible Gearhulk. So in lieu of that, I'm just going to Mana Drain. Besides, I've got Future Sight in my hand, so good things can happen. Alright, he's done. No attack on Karn from the flyer. Alright, excellent. 6. Well, play the Future Sight. Jace, waiting right on top. Beautiful. Just going to play him. There's an island there, so I'm going to certainly draw 3 here. There's certainly no reason to bounce anything. And off that 3, oh my goodness, Amnesia. Alright, so I'm going to just put a land and Amnesia back. And then play the land. And with my copious mana, crush his hand. Get the Death Mantle, get Ironworks, and Trash for treasure. Pretty good card to take out of his hand, too. I'm going to exile the... oh yeah, and then there's the what to use Karn on, and I ultimately decided that the best card here to take was the Thran Dynamo. Given the fact that I want to constrain his mana so that he can't do crazy Rings of Brighthearth thing, I could have gotten rid of the rings, but killing the Dynamo effectively shuts the rings down anyway, because they require so much mana to run. So now he can just recast his general, but he's going to be nearly tapped out after that. He can't use its activation, and I can just use Karn to kill the general a second time. So killing the Thran Dynamo makes the most sense by far, and I'm going to play Nin. Got another land right there, and unfortunately the Etherium Sculptor plus the land that he just drew means that he can activate his general. But, you know, you can't have a perfect situation. Oh. Where the hell did it go? Hello? What the hell? Where is it? I know for sure that he just played it. Ah. That's strange. Well, he did put it into play. I mean, obviously he tapped all his mana to do that. That's bizarre. And I drawed this, and then there is a Dissolve sitting on top of the deck. Yeah, I didn't have Jace in play at this point. I think that he just played his guy and immediately sacked 2 artifacts to destroy Jace by redirecting the 3 damage onto Jace, which is fine because I didn't need it anyway. I've got Future Sight. So the game actually did bug out, although it's so late. It's so late that it doesn't even matter. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there should be his guy. Oh, I guess maybe. Yeah, whatever. He killed Jace. That's what matters. And I've just got a Dissolve sitting on top plus a big Nin activation coming. And that's it, actually. He did concede on this turn, although the game is bugging out at this point. But he drew a Skull Clamp and played it, and I cast a Dissolve off the top of my deck, which of course countered the Skull Clamp. And he packed it in at that point, facing down active Nin and Karn Liberated with no cards in hand. But I thought this was a cool game to highlight, just making those early decisions. Way, way, way behind at the beginning. But it goes to show you that if you do play this deck, it's so resilient that even if you get beaten down early, even if you're really, really behind on mana, you should never give up, because the opportunity to come back really, really is there. It's just a matter of believing in the deck and prioritizing getting more mana into play over anything else. You've got to just focus on that, and the strength of the cards in the deck will usually yield the win. I've got some more games to record. Thank you guys for being so patient, and see you soon.